Welcome to SDH's coverage of the USL W League through the eyes of the South Central Division. 6 teams in the South Central, and what we're going to do over the next hour or so, we're going to catch up with someone from each of these clubs to get you ready for play. USL W League started last weekend with its inaugural match, but everything starts pretty much in earnest this weekend and early next week. And so what we're going to do is we're going to introduce you to each of the 6 teams in the South Central Division to get their perspective on what they're looking forward to, what it's been like to build this from scratch, to get this thing up and running for each of these locations, some of the players you might want to look out for, and in some cases, previews of their opening matchups within the South Central Division here in the USL W. First stop, South Carolina United FC Bantams. And we catch up with their executive director, Rob Strickland, and we find out what has been going on with South Carolina United FC as they get ready for their inaugural match in USLW. Does it seem like it was just yesterday that the W League was announced, or does it seem like it was a long time ago that the W League was announced and you're coming up on your first match day?
Well, I think it's a bit of both, to be quite honest. It feels like it was a long time ago, and I think we were number 11 club to commit. Something close to that. But then as the game days approach, it feels like it was just a short time ago as we've been scrambling to get the new program up and running, and we're welcoming the new teammates to the city, and so we're looking forward to it. We actually played a friendly, which we're going to have a kind of an annual rivalry game with Greenville Liberty, the Prisma Cup, last Sunday, but that was the very first time some of our players had ever met each other, just actually at the game. So no practice. So that was a baptism of fire for us, but we're excited about it. Lots going on.
I was going to ask, what's it like to sit there and have players and coaches sitting there shaking hands and going, hi, the only thing missing short of the name on the back might have been the name tag, the hello, my name is part going into something like this.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's crazy, but at the same time, I know that it's part of the process in getting something done that is, in fact, it's all of this build for a sprint of a season. How difficult is it to have a build and then know that you're building for a sprint? I mean, it sounds like a lot of hard work.
Yeah, it is. Now, we are used to that because we've had the USL League 2 on the men's side for about 10 years, but it just comes with the territory of the summer programs. We've got women players who are graduating on different days, finishing the exams, so they're kind of trickling in these first 10 days of May, and then we should have our full roster available by Friday. Might be the first time we actually all practice together, and the opening season game, regular season game on Saturday at Tormenta. So it's a sprint. We're kind of used to it, but we've got a real good coaching staff, and Sandy Burris and Jeremy Avon, they're used to it as well. And so far, everything's been, heading in the right direction.
You mentioned Tormenta, so I'll go ahead and ask this question. When I mentioned the rest of the division to you, when you look at your competition that you're going to be facing, what comes to mind?
Well, we have some long-standing rivalries with Tormenta, so that's a big match for us. We play against that club in both the youth, boys and girls. We played in the USL League 2. We've had some big playoff matches, big regular season games, so that's a really big game for us. And then some of the other clubs that we play also participate in the League 2 on the men's side. So we look forward to it. We know it's going to be challenging. All of the clubs that are in it are strong clubs from top to bottom. But we believe we can compete in the division.
Yeah, you mentioned that you've got Chattanooga Red Wolves hopping in. You've got MOBA, and everybody knows about MOBA soccer and what they've been able to do. You've got Tormenta, SSA, and Tennessee Soccer Club. And I think that it speaks well to the growth of the game here in the Southeast that you have these markets like yours in the upstate, like MOBA, like Chattanooga with what they're building, Tormenta with what they're doing in Statesboro and SSA in Tennessee. All these places probably where maybe 10 years ago, folks would have sat there and said, it's soccer in the Southeast. But I think that this division speaks to the foothold that the South and the Southeast has now in the growth of the game.
Yeah, I think you hit on a great point there. And we're seeing that even at the highest level in the MLS, where some of the biggest attendances are at Nashville, Charlotte, Atlanta. So the Southeast, to me, has always been a great, I'm not from the Southeast, I'm from England originally, but I've been here 20 years. We've got year-round soccer weather. So the game can be played year-round. We've got a lot of people that really enjoy it. And so the program's being built, towards the professional game, being built out by some of these very strong youth clubs, makes that Southeast is a soccer power and a real force to reckon with, similar to how Texas used to be, Florida. I find that we're competing at that type of level now in the youth games. And what's been interesting in the W League and the USL League too, we feel like we were on the forefront of this, but we had our Bantams program on the top of the pyramid for our youth. We didn't build from the top of the pyramid down. We were on the bottom, and a lot of the clubs you mentioned, MOBA, Tennessee Soccer Club, Tormenta, they have strong youth clubs below them as well. And I think that has really helped the stability of that pre-professional level in the Southeast. And you don't see clubs coming in for a season and then they're out the next season. So you've got a stable environment for rivalries to build and infrastructures to build for the players and the communities. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, John.
I'm just going to say, what's it been like for you to see the growth of the game there in South Carolina over the last decade specifically? Because, once again, we talk about atypical markets, but you've been able to see it firsthand about how things have grown.
Yeah, well, we've seen it in our state significantly. So we have some very strong anchor youth clubs, ourselves in the Midlands, South Carolina United, then in the upstate where Greenville Triumph is. There's a very strong youth club called Carolina Elite Soccer Academy. And then in the Charleston area, there's strong clubs there as well. So that competition within the state in the youth game has driven, higher demands in practices, higher demands from parents about the type of instruction they're getting from the coaches. And so everything's just elevated. And the W League is just, the icing on the cake, for that female player.
When it comes to, everything that we have seen that's a part of this, we know that clubs have certain philosophies. Yes, there are those in-game tactics, but there is a philosophy that is attached to every club. For those that don't know the philosophy of Bantams, what is that philosophy that you carry through all the way from the youth side and now what we're going to get to see in USLW? Yeah,
so South Carolina United and the Bantams, we want to be known as a blue-collar grassroots soccer club that built organically from recreation and went all the way through the levels, with the W League being at the top. So the core of our culture must be hard work, grit, determination, and being a champion. When we say being a champion, it's not about the wins and losses. It's supporting of others, being a champion of a cause, and being proud of the badge. So we will be known as being a very hard-working team, aggressive in our defending and pressing from the front through all our levels, but have a community feel to it, where we're all in it together. Our motto has always been since 2006 when we merged our club to be South Carolina. It's all youth, all levels, all soccer. And so we're proud of the top levels, but we're equally proud of people that just want to play recreationally. So that's going to be our culture. On the field, we want to be in your face, pressing. We want to be high tempo, score a lot of goals, which means we might give up a lot of chances because we're going to commit a lot of plays to the attack. But that is going to be a fun night to be at the fields if you're watching the Bantams.
And we will do that in Statesboro on the weekend. Thanks for hanging out.
Thanks, John. See you.
So reminder, their first match is Saturday at 7:30 at South Georgia Tormenta. So once again, Bantams at Tormenta, Saturday, May 14th, 7:30 in Statesboro. Next stop, MOBA Soccer. And we catch up with Gene Smith, the girls director there at Peachtree City MOBA, to find out what it's been like for him and everyone down there in the Southern Crescent to get ready for match week number 1. What's it been like to build this thing as a part of the framework at MOBA?
It's exhausting and rewarding at the same time. So the framework has, it's going forward. I think Looking at the youth side of things a little bit, we have record numbers coming into tryouts this year. The teams have been very successful, and obviously, the professional pipeline is fantastic right now. The move to USLW, I think, has certainly been rewarding. I think philosophically, it fits us better, it fits me better as a coach, to be honest with you. I think the framework that the USLW has put out for us is absolutely fantastic. How they promote the women's game, how they care about the athletes beyond the field is just fantastic. So I'm excited for it. And I think, it's all about momentum, right? So you got to keep the momentum going. And, I think we have the right people in the right places, and we're just moving it forward.
For those not familiar with MOBA's place in the footprint when it comes to soccer, how would you best describe MOBA's place in it?
Well, it's a small club. We're a small club, and we make no apologies about being a small club. I think we have a philosophy in which, we're player centered, we're team focused. We want the best for our athletes. We want to move them on. And, I think, I don't think we have any designs to be a massive club, and that's okay. I mean, I think that works, and, it works in this area. I think we've had some great successes, moving some players on to the professional ranks, moving them on to the college ranks. You're not going to see the same, I guess, consistency would be the word I would look for. I come from the Northeast, so, there's a lot of big clubs in the Northeast, and, I worked with Beadling for a long time, and, those clubs turn out a lot of college players and things along those lines. We don't have those types of numbers, but if you look at the quality that we turn out, and, what we turn out in terms of our players and who they are as people and who they are as, athletes, I think we give them a great experience. I think we do some things differently than other clubs do. I think the sports science end of things is very different. Our affiliation with Synergy, and, Josh does a fantastic job. I think that gives you kind of it gives you that kind of professional feel to things. I think our training environment, knowing all the kids, knowing all the strengths and weaknesses and how to develop them, and being able to interact in that level, and that consistency it really kind of sets us apart.
When you look at the other teams currently in the division, I mean, there are differing philosophies there as well, but they are each making their own impact within the footprint. You're looking at Red Wolves out of Chattanooga, Bantams out of South Carolina, South Georgia Tormenta, SSA, and Tennessee SC. When you look at those other five, what do you see?
No, I see good teams. I see a lot to contend with, but I think in the end, I think we've done, I've worked hard, right? We brought in some really special talent this year, and I think, it's why we play the game, right? We don't know anything. We can always speculate about how good, everybody's going to be. Chattanooga's been around for a while, and they do a great job. SSA is obviously a larger club. Tennessee Soccer Club is a big club. Bantams has consistently been very good on the men's side. And I think they probably will do the same on the female side. I look at it, and yes, I think we're the small club. I think we're the one that, has something to prove for sure. But I think you're going to find that we're going to punch above our weight. To be honest, I think, the experience that we give our players, and, the commitment level that we have to them is going to be great. And I think, we have some really good talent. I mean, you look at, I'll point out, like, a Carly Banks, who's a local product, who played in the NISL for Rome this past season. You got Renee Lyles from Clemson, who, was all freshman team in the ACC. We have some players who are starting to see what we're trying to do philosophically, and what we're trying to do on the field, and how we play, and how we, create this soccer environment for them. I think you're going to find that we're going to do very well. I think we're going to be competitive, but every game in this league is always, it's a street fight. It's hard to win, man.
And I mean, what's it like to see the sport grow in the Southeast as much as it has? Because I know a lot of folks probably 10 years ago would have sat there and said, soccer in the Southeast, and they would have gone, they would have put their hand in the air and waved it at you.
Right.
But you look at the 6 teams here in this specific example, and there's a larger representation of Georgia in the Southeast here. And, I don't want to necessarily steal from hip hop and rap, but the South's got something to say, and they have in the last 10 years.
For sure. We're talking about that momentum, right? And I think, I really appreciate the fact that all these players are starting to return to this area as well. Certainly they could go to other areas. Certainly that's an option for them. I mean, USLW obviously has that option. You could take a player from the Southeast, they could go play in the Northeast if they really wanted to. But I think, you're seeing the growth of the women's game. And I think, for us especially, it's a give back, right? Like we're starting to see these players that, our young kids can relate to. And they're like, oh, I knew this player when they played in high school or when they played club or when they, they're starting to return to the areas and give some of their knowledge and their experiences and their talent back to this. And this is what's growing the sport. And I think that's very special. Like I said, I think, again, with the league, I think the USLW is doing something very special as well. I think they really have created a framework and a platform in which it's going to grow the women's game. And I think that is important. And I think we, with the formation of the Super League coming in and things along those lines, I think they have the vertical right now. I think, we struggled in the women's game for a long time to get everything kind of under one umbrella. And, I think it's starting to happen. And I think we're starting to see the beginning pieces of it.
So then with the SSA match coming up just around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like when I'm discussing that with you and I just drop that match is coming up around the corner. It's like the business card of yours. And I know that your business card probably has enough titles to work front and back.
It might.
I mean, when that match is it's hovering there, and I know it's at SSA coming up, early next week. When you see that hovering right there, I mean, what's going through your mind?
Well, I always have to as a coach, I always go back to the last meetings, right? And we did not fare well in our last meeting with SSA, and credit to SSA, they're a very good team, they're a very good club, and they always put a very quality group on the field. What's going through my mind is, I'm currently still moving players in. We're still trying to create some things. We have a Ukrainian international who is on national team duty, who won't even be there for that match. I think we have players who still are coming out of college, who still have things that they have to get done, who won't be there for that match. So it's a great litmus test. I think that's the best way I can describe it, is like, I have this vision of what we are this year, and the athletic ability and the players that we have. But I think SSA is probably in the same boat. They're probably thinking, well, it's so early on. We have very little, we have a lot to do in very little time. I think that's really what it comes down to. So, when we both step on the field, I think it's going to be a lot of feeling each other out and trying to figure out how can we take advantage of this? How can we work through this? Because again, it's a new season, and I think we're going to both put new teams on the field, and we're still going to be working through a lot of stuff. So, I know I'm going to do my best to try to get it organized beforehand, but yeah, it's tough. It's a tough one to lead off with. Right. But there's no easy game. I mean, there's just no easy game in this division. It's like, you could plug and play any team, right? You could say, your first match is against Chattanooga. It would be the same thing. It's really, really difficult to, find an easy game or an easy development piece or anything along those lines where it's like, yeah, we can contend. But, we haven't had a chance to scout each other. We don't really know. We're just going on, what we show up with on, that first day.
So then my last question for you, what's it like to build something knowing that it's going to be a sprint? I mean, I know that, I talked to Rob earlier in the show, and, it's the same thing with Bantams because of their experience in League Two. Mm-hmm. They have at least that you mentioned a framework. They've got the framework of working something, knowing it's a sprint. What's it like building something for you, knowing that all of this build is happening? The announcement happens, the build happens, and it's a sprint to get into a playoff where you're hopefully chasing a championship. What's that like, going 90 miles an hour, then go on 120 miles an hour, and then it's over?
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to some of my players about this. We're moving it. Like I said, we're moving them in, right? And we were talking about this because, as a college coach for many, many years, college season is abrupt, but you have this build-up process. You have the preseason. You have this time to kind of create a culture and create a model for your team and create these frameworks. And you hope by mid-season you're playing your best soccer and, kind of running into the conference championship and things like that. And I looked at my players and I said, hey, look, like we need to be playing our best soccer game too. So, we have this one game where, we can kind of like look at things, but we're going to do a lot of work.
And it's SSA.
Yeah. And it's hard, right? It's away, it's hard. Like and it's these things where, yes, it's a sprint. It's a hard sprint. And we're, again, I have to, and it's the same with every team. We have to balance what we want as coaches, and what our teams want, which is, yes, we all want to compete. We all want to be champions. We all want to move on. We want to win the league. But at the same time, it's like we have to consider the big picture for these players, right? A lot of them are going to go back to their college teams. We have to give them the best soccer environment, the best training environment, and really prepare them for the next step, whatever that may be, whether it's a professional career, whether it's a college career, whether it's the next step, because we are a stopping point almost, but we're still trying to do this amazing thing in this small, very condensed environment. And I have faith. Like I have a lot of faith that the kids that I brought in this year have the right mentality where the culture is going to develop quickly and we're going to get everything on the field that we need. And, they're going to work and they're going to commit and they're going to do what is required of them in order to be a championship level team. And it's fast. And, I think it creates this great mentality for the players of like, hey, look, we don't have time. We need to be able to solve pressure, and that pressure is coming from all over, right? It's that match looming on the 17th. It's the ability that we have to put a team on the field that's going to need to work together, and they're coming from 9 different countries and, a bunch of schools and a bunch of different environments. And, that's my job. So I have to supply that. And we're, like I said, I think we got the right people. We got the right personnel to do it.
So reminder, Peachtree City MOBA is at SSA Elite. That one is Tuesday night at 7:30. Tuesday, May the 17th at 7:30. Peachtree City MOBA and SSA to get things started for Peachtree City MOBA. Next up, Chattanooga Lady Red Wolves General Manager and President Gretchen Hammel. We've had Gretchen on SDH over the last handful of years. This time it's to talk about what's been going on with the Lady Red Wolves as they get ready for the USL W League. So does this sprint seem like a sprint? Has it slowed down any, considering that I think you're going to be one of the last teams in the division to start? Has this slowed down, or are you still running to a start on the 20th?
Right. Yes. I mean, I think anytime for me, being the general manager for the women's team, there's things that can't happen until certain dates. So I think you always feel like you're at a sprint, just finalizing things, getting players cleared, registered, internationally cleared, making sure the jerseys have the right numbers with the right players. We've adding players on, making sure the visiting teams have their visiting team, instructions when they come. So it's a lot of things, a lot of details that you don't have, 6 months in advance that you can do. So so leading up to it, you're at a sprint. I don't think there's anything you can do about it.
So what is it like in this sprint? I mean, it's you're building up to a date, which in your case is the home opener on the 20th. You're building up to that home opener on the 20th. And then it's another sprint to try to get in through the division and get into a playoffs and chase a championship. So it's like, it's a long marathon into a sprint, into another sprint that you're hoping continues to go on. It's like you're dealing with a bunch of different levels here.
Yes. Yeah. So it is a very, you have a whole year to kind of think about, what you need to do to get things prepared for the next season. What can we do to make things better for the next year? What can we do to step up our game, making contacts with players? But then once you get into the season, it is definitely a sprint. The season is short and intense. You're packing in 12 games roughly in about 8-week season. So some weeks you'll have 2 games. I mean, we've had 3 games in 1 week. And so for these players, sometimes it's a lot of wear and tear on them. Now, for me as an administrative person, and I would think a lot of clubs feel the same way. It's, getting to that first game is really the most important one, because after that first game, a lot of things are set into place. You've got the mold already made on what you need to be doing. Now, after that point of, then it's just repeating, what needs to do better. What do you need to do better? But then also it's keeping our players healthy and fresh, and what we can do to just keep them fresh and going throughout, the whole season, and peaking at the right times at the end of the season, so we can make that push to the national tournament. So yeah, it is intense. It is intense for sure for us as administrators and coaches, staff, and for the players. It's intense for them too.
When it comes to philosophy, and what we like to try to differentiate are the game-to-game tactics and the philosophy of a particular team. If you could break down the philosophy of Red Wolves in USL W League, how would you describe the philosophy of the club?
So are you talking about as a playing style?
Yeah, well, playing style, attitude, all of those kinds of things that make up the fabric is like, so if I was to say to you, what is Chattanooga Red Wolves in USL W League, how would you describe what you are?
Right. What I believe, and I'm going to brag on us. I think we have the highest quality coaches and players around this area. And what I think separates us from many clubs, there's a ton of fabulous clubs that do it right, and we learn from, but we really, try to push ourselves to meet the highest standard in the way we play. As far as our coaches being qualified, we want to hire the best coaches, but also, and with the players, that we're very, very selective with the players that we bring in. Not only do they need to be fantastic players. Now you'll see that we also have we have players from different divisions, not just Division I players, but there's a culture that's been important, I think, to me. And I think I can say that for our head coach, Luke Winter, that there is a culture that, if you don't have a good culture, then you're not going to, have a good product on the field as well. And we've been a family, and we really just support one another in this club. But also, I think, there is a mentality of a player that, hey, this is a person that has good character, but they also, they have a winning mentality, and, they're just driven group of women, and but they also have fantastic character where they care about each other. They're good people. They give back to the community. They just a wonderful group of women. So I think when we're selecting women, and I can't speak for the men's team, obviously, because I don't choose players, but we're looking for the highest quality of player, but we're also looking for the character. So we're always talking to coaches, what do they like? Are they coachable? Are they, they get along with their teammates, and all that stuff. And so those things go hand in hand when you have, to put the best product on the field. So yeah. And then as far as playing style goes, we've got the highest level, coaches that we can have, like Luke Winter. He's very, very good qualified coach that he's constantly pushing himself and getting better as a coach, and to put the highest level quality of play on the field and in training.
When it comes to the other teams that are in the division, I know that each one has their own piece of the footprint here, because, you're looking at Peachtree City MOBA, you're looking at Bantams out of South Carolina, South Georgia Tormenta, Southern Soccer Academy, and Tennessee SC, who will be on after you when we catch up with Dalton Kaufman. When you look at those other teams that are chasing the same thing that you are, what do you see in those other 5 teams?
I see some very, very good signees. They're signing some really quality players. And I think that our competition is going to be a lot more intense, more than it ever has been. I have full faith in our group of women players, though. There is a depth of these women that have played together and they play for each other that I think is untouchable in a lot of clubs. Now they are signing some seriously fantastic players. Like I said, the competition is going to be a lot harder for us this year, and we're excited about it. But we also don't want to go in, and we never, the players that we have, coaches, we don't ever go in underestimating our opponent. So we want to go in just fully expecting our best, but also, taking each opponent seriously. But also knowing, confidently that we can win every game that we face.
So then my last question for you, what's it been like for you? And, our conversations have gone back, several years with where things have been in your particular part of the footprint here in the Southeast. What's it been like for you to continue to see the sport and grow in the Southeast to where you're looking at Georgia and Tennessee and Alabama and the Carolinas all continuing to grow as entities when it comes to the sport of soccer, and show that, 5 or 10 years ago when folks might have been dismissing the Southeast, that's not something that they should be doing these days, considering where the sport is right now here in the Southeast, and especially with the USL W League.
Right. Yeah. So I grew up in a time where, your big soccer states were like Texas, North Carolina, California. But now, like you said, just the soccer movement has not only grown, but it's grown, obviously, like you just said, all over the Southeast and in the Southeast United States. It has become a big soccer capital down here as well in the Southeast. Now Tennessee's a big soccer state. Georgia's a big soccer state. And but not only has it grown, it's grown for women. I think the female soccer game, like the women Barcelona team played Manchester United women, and that I think it was 95,000.
Yeah, when you had over 90,000 at the Camp Nou, yeah.
Yeah, I just think that the sport for women has grown. And it's grown worldwide, and in the United States it's grown. So yeah, I just think we're just seeing a natural evolution and growth of soccer in the nation. People love it, love to play, love to watch it, and it's just become such an exciting sport for everyone in this country. And so yeah, and it's exciting that Tennessee has become a huge soccer state as well. It allows us to have a lot more quality of players for us to choose better players, that helps us a lot.
Their season opener is South Carolina United Bantams at Chattanooga Red Wolves at CHI Memorial Stadium Friday night, May 20th at 7:30. So Bantams at Lady Red Wolves. That one is Friday, May 20th at 7:30. Next stop, Franklin, Tennessee, and the Tennessee Soccer Club. And we catch up with Dalton Kaufman, the head coach of TSC, and find out what it's been like for someone who has been in Franklin, Tennessee less than a year to build something from scratch.
It's been exciting. We've got a heck of a player pool in the Middle Tennessee region, and obviously we're TSC, Tennessee Soccer Club, so we have a large player pool to pull from here. So in terms of adding players to our roster, that hasn't been that difficult. We had pretty much everyone we reached out to was interested in coming back. They were thrilled to come back and wear the shield again. I guess the tough part's been just, administratively, just getting everything going, in that sense. But in terms of getting and attracting the players, it was remarkably easy.
And it's been one of the things I think that, we've been able to notice over the last, say, decade. We'll just cut it off at 10 years, where there wasn't a whole lot of, professional soccer leagues in the Southeast. And in the last decade, it has ramped up, it has amplified, and it has shown that, a lot of folks might not have been looking at soccer in the Southeast, but now you look at soccer in the Southeast and you can sit there and say, okay, soccer, capital S, Southeast, capital S, capital E, about the impact that the Southeast has had. And I think that shows in what you were just telling me now about the player pool and folks that want to be a part of soccer in the Southeast, specifically with you.
Agreed. And, there's an amazing soccer culture out here. And that's what's so great about the W League in itself. It's bringing it to the forefront. It's going to be very exciting, not just for the girls to come back and again, like I said before, put the TSC shield on again and play, but it's going to be amazing for continuing to build the culture here in Tennessee and the South with all these young players who are going to come, and a lot of them are going to see their first ever pre-professional soccer game, see some big time athletic, future pros play soccer, and that's going to be really exciting. When we get those seats filled, it's going to just impact the culture here, exponentially.
For those that don't necessarily know the footprint and the soccer culture there in Franklin and where your main area is, break that down for folks.
Well, there used to be several clubs in the area, and years ago they merged. So we're kind of a collection of several clubs. TSC is kind of the big club in the Middle Tennessee region. There's also Knoxville has a big club, FC Alliance, and Chattanooga obviously has a big club. But in the Middle Tennessee, Nashville area, TSC is the big club. It's enormous, very, very competitive. It's an ECNL club on the boys' side and the girls' side. But in terms of the culture, it's incredible. With NSC, the Nashville Soccer Club, the professional team, MLS being here, those tickets are sold out. I mean, you can't even get those right now unless you know somebody. So the culture's here, and it's growing every week. I'm getting emails. We're getting on social media. Our footprint is huge. I'm originally from Southern California. I have people, texting me and emailing me from Southern California, saying what is going on out there. It's just the highlights are on ESPN now. So, anyways, there's a big soccer culture here, and it's growing every day. It's exciting.
For those that'll be catching up with your club for the first time, starting with that home match on Wednesday, who are some of the names that folks can gravitate toward there for TSC?
Well, I think one of the biggest names is Anna Haddock. She is an all SEC midfielder at Auburn. She just called up to the U23s, had her first cap for the U.S. Just a dynamic, brilliant player, and she's only getting better, but she's an amazing player to watch. Very exciting. She'll put people in the stands just watching her. We have an amazing goalkeeper, Kate Devine. She's at Vanderbilt, outstanding player. We have Whit Buchanan from Ole Miss, just another impact player. She's a target. She's a 9, a target forward. I mean, I can go on forever. LJ Knox, another player for Auburn. We're loaded with top tier Division I players. I guess the big challenge is all the time when you get such a big roster is because these are college kids. Can we get them all on the field at the same time at the same game? Because a lot of them have commitments, they have internships and things here and there. But I believe when we get all these impact players on the field at the same time, we're going to be a real force to be reckoned with.
And when you look at the other teams that are making impact in their footprints here in the division, you're looking at Chattanooga, you're looking at Peachtree City MOBA, it's Bantams in South Carolina with South Carolina United, it's South Georgia Tormenta, it's SSA. When you look at those other 5 teams, what comes to mind when I talk about them?
Well, they're very similar to us. They have a large footprint in their areas. I think a small advantage we may have is that there's just not a lot of competitive clubs within our immediate region. We have Chattanooga, but that's 3 hours away. Knoxville doesn't have a team yet, so we're not having to share our players with anybody. So that's one advantage we may have. But those other teams you mentioned, they're going to be amazing as well. I've looked over their rosters. I do my research, and we know there's not going to be one easy game. Everything's going to be tough. Everything's going to be competitive, and that's exactly what we want. We want our girls to get better. We want them to return to their college programs better than ever, sharp, technically sound, tactically proficient, ready to rumble. and we want and those college coaches send them back to us the following year if they're not going pro. So we want to keep that relationship.
Well, and you mentioned the idea of getting these players in, getting them sharp, improving them, having them go back to where they were, then come back in following years.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned all of this, and it's a difficult dance, I think, for coaches knowing that you're going to have this talent coming in. The only thing that might be missing initially is the hello, my name is, name card on, the first day at practice. You assemble this group. Okay, this group is here. And all the work that we've done to get to this point has been kind of a marathon, which is now leading into a sprint. You now have this talent that is descending upon you into another sprint, which you're hoping lends you into a third sprint, which is chasing after a championship. So, I mean, it's like you're dealing with a lot of different speeds and having to juggle a couple of different chainsaws here for this.
Well, a lot of moving parts and a lot of managing positions, managing personalities, managing availability. It's a very challenging job. I would say it's very similar to a coaching job, and I've a college coaching job, and I've been there. I have coached college before, and I would say there are similar challenges in both occupations. But again, I go back to the fact that most of these girls, over 90% of the girls on our team, are not only from the area, but they played at TSC, so they're familiar with our philosophy. They're familiar with our style of play. Ronnie Woodard, who is the assistant coach, he was the head coach at Vanderbilt from, I think, maybe 99 to 2010. Well-known female coach, known, around the country. A lot of these girls played for her. So when she's out there, it brings an incredible vibe. We have some advantages here just by the fact that these girls are returning TSC players. So again, not to say it's not going to be a challenge, but I think we might have some advantages that maybe some other clubs might not have.
So then what's your expectations for this season?
Our expectations is to win the conference, win the South Central Division, and go to the Final Four. So I mean, I can't say it any clearer than that.
No, and I think that, and then let me ask you this: how difficult is it with that expectation, knowing that this is a sprint and trying to integrate and orchestrate everything? How difficult a dance is that, knowing that the expectation's there? It's probably on a mantle or a whiteboard someplace of the main ideal here, but that's got to have a lot of pressure added into this sprint, or it's a part of this sprint to get you to where you want to go. I always have high expectations for myself as a coach and for my players and for the team. I know the club has high expectations, but within reason. I would argue it's the players that have the highest expectations. I mean, I've spoken with many of them, and they're not coming out just to stay fit. They're not coming out just to knock the ball around with their friends. They want to do that, but they also want a championship. So these are very, very competitive players. And as I said, if we can get clicking on all cylinders, create the winning formula, I think it's going to be a very rewarding season. I mean, we're going to have our hiccups here and there, as most teams do. But I believe if we can get things going the way I know we can, it's going to be a fun, rewarding, and long season for us. Their season opener, TSC, is a home match Wednesday, May the 18th, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 local time against South Georgia Tormenta. So Tormenta on the road quickly after a home opener. Then they hit the road Wednesday to take on TSC in Franklin at 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central. That one is Wednesday, May the 18th. And speaking of South Georgia Tormenta, time to catch up with Jim Robbins, head coach of South Georgia Tormenta, on the USL W side and find out what it's been like for him. We've caught up with him in the past here at SDH. So now that the season is upon him, what else is going on down there in Statesboro? First question, what's it been like to build this from scratch to get to the point to where you're this close for games meaning something?
It's been a lot of work. Like we were saying before, it's been since late July, early August that we've started the roster building process. Now we have 18 of 26 players here. Got the last handful will be here next week. So the excitement is building very quickly. I think the talent that we have on the team is excellent. We're going to add in some more talented players. First game's this coming Saturday, so I think it's a combination of, a little bit of the work's been done, the pressure's off a little bit, but then it's okay. Now we got to get ready for game day, and the girls they're pumped. They're looking forward to it. I think the anxiety levels picking up a little bit, but we want to hear that first whistle and we want to go. When you look at the rest of the division, what do you see in your opposition this season? Well, I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of teams that are probably going to play the same way. I think the level of talent across the division is probably going to be very similar, very comparable. I don't see any easy game on the schedule. So what we're trying to tell our team is you got to be your best. First game, second game, third game, last game, because I don't think there's going to be any easy 3 points in the division. I mean, our goals are simple. We want to be at the top of the division. We're hoping that we can represent our division in the national tournament. That's what we're trying for. But we know every day is going to be a lot of work. There's going to be nothing handed to us. When, let's talk about the players that are currently in-house as we're talking leading into this first match. For those who are going to be following along in the USLW and watching Tormenta play, who are some of the folks that folks can gravitate toward, whether it's from the local aspect of Tormenta, folks that are coming home, folks that you're bringing in? Who are some of the folks to focus on? Well, we got, as I say, our depth is excellent, and that's by design. But I think some featured players that people want to watch out for: Sydney Martinez, obviously goalkeeper for us. I think she's a two-time All-American in South Florida. I mean, excellent goalkeeper. But we got two keepers behind her just as good. Isabella Gutierrez, she was on that Herman Mack watch list last year at Furman. She just arrived for her first training session today. Obviously, she's going to be a player to watch. We have Amy Andrews, girl from England who played at Western Illinois, broke all their scoring records. I think that's another kid who can score some goals for us. I think someone like Remy Olieri, she may play attacking midfield. This kid's all over the place, very dynamic. I think we got a great center back, Cameron Scully, plays at Pacific, who's from Delaware. That's one of the late arrivals next week. I think she's going to be an impact player for us at the back. But I think it's just a question of who really wants to come and play that day. I think hopefully what separates us from our opposition is who do you stop? Who are you going to deal with today? Again, by design, that's what we went for. We went for multiple dangerous attacking players. We went for a lot of depth in the back line. We went for excellent goalkeeping, and knock on wood, I think we have it. Obviously, the rubber's got to hit the road on Saturday, and we'll see where we are. When it comes to philosophy, I know that folks will look at tactics and they'll look at philosophy, and they'll want to treat them one and the same, but it's two separate paths. When it comes to the philosophy that you're trying to instill there at Tormenta, what is the philosophy that folks will see there in Statesboro? Well, for us, we want to try to play the right way. I mean, ever how you define that, that's to be determined, I guess. But for me, I guess it's we want to play a sophisticated possession game. We're not afraid to possess the ball for long stretches, so a little bit more under that patient possession sort of mindset. We're not afraid to change the point of the attack a couple times in the build-up. We're looking for some positional fluidity, positional interchange. We want to get outside backs forward in the attack. Trying to get the girls to understand that a lot of what you're seeing in the modern game, especially if you're the Man Cities of the world and some of these other men's teams, when they get to the final half, final third, it's a 2-3-5. They're trying to outnumber the opponent against the back line. So those are some of the things that we're trying to preach. But again, maybe that's different than what some of the other teams are trying to do. But for me, that's what I believe in my heart. That's what I've been trying to teach and train for probably the last 2 decades. And like we told the ladies, it's almost like, for me, now's the time. We have the players who have the skill sets who are able to execute that on the field, and we're going to roll the dice and we're going to go for it. And we're hoping it comes off. I think it will, but we're going to keep our fingers crossed, and we're going to let these girls enjoy the game and just play it the way I think it should be played. What's it like to get the correspondences that I imagine that you've been getting once the league came online and it was announced as a part of the fabric there at Tormenta and Statesboro? Because in the conversation that you and I've just been having over the last handful of minutes, you've mentioned Western Illinois, you've mentioned UOP. This is not something that is just in the Southeast. This is a global thing
with USLW. What's it been like to get the correspondences, and how wide a net has it been?
No, it's been great. To be honest, it started off slow, which I get and I respect that the college coaches and the college players, they're dealing with what they're dealing with in their season. But like I said, I went right out, in July. I'm reaching out to people, and there was a lot of dead air there for a while, which, like I said, I fully understand, fully respect. But once we got into September, October, and I was watching more games and reaching out to coaches, hey, I liked her. What do you think of her? Then all of a sudden the inbox started to get flooded. The phone calls started to come in, and it was, hey, here's who I have. Do you have a place? Take a look at this player. So the momentum built up rather quickly, especially around the turn of the year. And like I said, we were fortunate that the roster, for the most part, was close to complete end of January, with a couple pieces here and there that we picked up in February. But like I said, it was almost like it just built it up to a crescendo there. And I mean, I was getting calls as of last week. Somebody got back to me, hey, I found out so-and-so wants to stay in the country. Do you have room? And I'm like, I know who the girl is. I'm like, I wish, but we're full, kind of thing. So like I said, I think it took a couple months for everyone to realize what this was and what we were getting to. But now all of a sudden, yeah, I mean, it's been slam dunk, full speed ahead. I don't like to tell people no, that's just who I am, but it's been, sorry, you have to wait till next year. So yeah, I got a little backlog now of people who, okay, here's where we are next year. Come take a look. Let's see where we are. But it's been great. But like I said, it's been exciting, a lot of work, but I've enjoyed it.
But at the same time, I mentioned the wide net, but I think the other cool part about this is that coastal East Central Georgia low country element that's a part of this, that I don't think a lot of folks necessarily outside of maybe the state of Georgia and parts of South Carolina understand how the state of Georgia is growing when it comes to soccer all across the board. I mean, you look at some of the quality high school efforts that are going on out there, some of the great programs in what you would consider an atypical place, like a Thomasville or something, or a Jefferson, something like that, where folks are getting to championships. But the local fabric of the growth of Tormenta is once again applying itself in a place where soccer really is growing with your roster.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And like we said on our earlier call, part of the DNA for us with this program is we want to showcase players who have come through the Tormenta youth system. So we're excited that we have 9 players who are on the roster for this year, which is great. We're really trying to connect the women's team with the youth side of the club. So that is a purposeful action for us. So we're trying to do some combined training sessions. We're trying to do some blended friendlies with our youth players. We're trying to get them to understand that if this is what you want to aspire to be, that we have to put them in that environment. So it helps us in terms of trying to connect the two. I'm a big believer in what it offers the youth players in terms of long-term individual player development. I think that does sort of speak to the radius that we work in here. And I've worked in Georgia youth soccer for a long time. I've worked at 2 different colleges in Georgia. I worked in the ODP program with the 94s and the 97s when I first came down here. So yeah, I agree. The level of individual player in our state has skyrocketed in the last decade and a half since I've been here. I'm assuming that's going to continue to go. If we do what we're supposed to do here, which is pick the right players, at the professional side, pre-professional side, identify the right players on the youth side, keep them in our system, that's only going to accelerate going forward.
Last stop in the South Central Division, it is the Southern Soccer Academy, otherwise known as SSA Elite. And for the SSA Elite point of view, we catch up with head coach Jack Coulton and find out what it's been like for SSA Elite to get up and running as they get ready for match week 1. So what's it been like to build this from scratch?
It's been an enjoyable process, I think, for a youth club, as we were. Our general manager, Simon, has created this pathway that I think's benefiting the under-9s now and all the way through to our W League team. It's been a process with our new offices and facilities, and to now see us on the training pitch, it's been enjoyable.
When you look at something like this and having a framework like you have at SSA, obviously it helps, but basically you make the announcement, there's a build, and then it's a sprint, and then you're hoping it's another sprint after the regular season, chasing after postseasons and titles and things like that. So what's it like having to build something that you're literally going to have to hit the ground running, and the room for error is very, very small.
Yeah, I think that's as a staff and even as our player group, it's having total buy-in. And there's great experience, from the staff around us, from our general manager down, a lot of people to lean on. And then the same with the players we've selected and we're working with right now. We learned a lot last year going into the W League. I think for all of the clubs, it's an unknown. But, this first week of training is really getting the players to buy in and get together early so that you can perform on the pitch starting next Tuesday. And
you look at the rest of the division, and I mean, it's stout stuff. It's Chattanooga Red Wolves, it's MOBA, and everybody knows in the Atlanta area about what MOBA soccer is as much as they do with SSA Elite. You're talking Bantams, you're talking Tormenta, you're talking Tennessee SC. When you look at these other clubs in your division, what do you see?
I see a competitive division. I see a lot of close games, which I think is going to make it exciting for the fans. And I think, for players, for teams and clubs going for playoffs, those games are mini World Cup finals, each and every one.
When you are assembling this roster, I know that you're looking for a certain kind of player, because we look at tactics and we look at philosophy, and those are two separate things. I know that folks kind of marry them, but they're two separate things. For those that may not know the philosophy of SSA, how would you describe it?
Yeah, we're after balance, which is tough to find, and we've got that. I think it's going to be a side that's going to be exciting to watch. The ball's going to be forward. There's going to be attacking wingers and centre forwards that want to score goals, and then the balance to that is having a defence that are stout and have siege mentality, but also can play. So I think across the board we're excited, and I think the fans will enjoy the team that we put out.
Who are some of the folks that when they come and watch SSA play, who are some of the folks that they can lock into in this season here in the W League?
Yeah, we've had academy players out watching training sessions and for our first scrimmage this weekend coming up, and they mentioned the names of Alexis Scarp, our centre back and was our captain last year, a really exciting player to watch. Some of the new players we've had come in, a centre forward, Trevor Aycock from Auburn, had some time in England. Exciting centre forward, very pacey, very tricky, and can score goals. So they would be two standout names for sure.
And at the same time, I think that, when you look at all of these different franchises, and you mentioned there's, in talking with the other coaches here in the division, there's a huge SEC presence. But it's not just tied to Division I, it's tied to the academies and tied to all of the other levels of competition. What's it like to sit here and be a part of something where the South has continued to grow in its, formation of the sport over the last handful of years?
Oh, it's massive. It's massive. Again, I keep using the term exciting, but to see these players, and again, you're not just chasing the SECs. There are players of quality in NAIA, Division II, Division III, and just, the formation of our roster. We're looking at players and you think, what is that top level? I think the players we've got, they can all play there.
And I know that we're still a handful of days away looking at your first opponent, but specifically, I know that we've talked about the other teams in the division, but when you look at MOBA from your early returns and early scouting, what do you see?
I see a much improved side and a team that's going to give us a big fight and a big challenge. So it's not going to be an easy first game for sure.
When you look at SSA and how it has grown and your piece in it, what's it been like to see the growth of SSA and continue to grow? I'm not saying that this is a stopping point; it's another launching point, specifically tied to the W League. But what's it been like to see growth and then have this new launching point when it comes to the W League?
It's immense pride, to be honest, where we've come and where we're going. And again, you mentioned I don't see it stopping there. I think for the membership we've had and our youngest players going through that pathway and now being able to watch the USL W League women, that gives them aspirations. It gets them time around these players and building their experience for when it's their turn.
Do you remember your first day with this project and what it was like?
Yeah, we're going back probably a year and a half now, but 2 years. It was the knowing that this was coming about was certainly exciting. When I met with the general manager and was given the opportunity to lead this, you know, the next part is trying to form an excellent staff, which we have. And, you know, with the staff that we have in place, the facilities we've got, you know, it was great excitement and just ready to get going.
Early rivalry game for Peachtree City MOBA and SSA. Once again, reminder, Tuesday, May 17th at 7:30 at SSA, Peachtree City MOBA and SSA Elite. So for everything that you want to know about USL W League, go to uslwleague.com. You can click on schedules, find out for the W, match center schedules, everything about all the clubs going on, and it will be a sprint, as we have found out from the 6 representatives of each of the clubs here in the division. So once again, thanks to everybody from Chattanooga Lady Red Wolves, from Peachtree City MOBA, South Carolina United Bantams, South Georgia Tormenta, the SSA Elite, and the Tennessee Soccer Club for catching us up to what has been going on as the USLW is off and running in the South Central Division. If you're nearby and can catch one of these matches, go for it. Quality competition. Great to see the USLW up and running, and you get to see it up close and personal in the South Central Division. If you're outside the South Central Division, and there are plenty of teams that are, catch it there if you can, if you are able to. Follow along on your local providers and here at SDH as the sprint that is the USLW starts in earnest this weekend for all the teams in the South Central Division and for everybody here at SDH. I'm just John. Play it safe, everybody. Enjoy the USLW League.